They say betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the people you take a bullet for. If that's true, then I've been shot straight through the heart. My name is Rachel Donovan. I'm 35 years old. Stay-at-home mom for more than a decade. Married to Liam since I was just 20. We built a life from nothing, had 3 beautiful kids, shared a home, a future. At least that's what I thought. But now I know better. The truth came in the ugliest form. It wasn't just cheating. It wasn't just sex. It was her. Natalie. My best friend. My ride or die since we were teenagers. The woman who held my hand when I buried my father, who watched my baby so I could nap, who brought me soup when I couldn't get out of bed postpartum. The same Natalie who now sends my husband explicit messages while I sleep 10 feet away. I wasn't supposed to see the messages. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. Liam's phone buzzed on the bathroom counter while he was in the shower. Just one glance. One instinct. And there it was. I miss the way you taste. Can we sneak away next weekend? I wish she wasn't always home. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not then. I took screenshots. Every message. Every photo. I backed them up to a cloud account he doesn't know exists. I've been watching for 4 months now, letting them bury themselves deeper every day. He thinks I'm still in the dark. Natalie still smiles in my face. And I play my role to perfection. We still host game nights. She still hugs me tight before she leaves. He still kisses me goodnight like he hasn't already broken every vow he made. But inside I've changed. I'm not shattered. I'm sharpening. You see, I gave Liam 25 years of my life. I gave up school, career dreams, independence. All for the family we swore to build together. I nursed our babies while he worked late. I cried alone in the bathroom during the darkest days of postpartum, while he laughed at Natalie's late-night jokes. I gave everything. And now I'll take it all back. Leaving isn't easy. We live in Texas, where the laws don't exactly favor a woman with no recent work history. I have no job. No savings. No family close enough to lean on. But I have something more powerful than all of that. Time. I've started learning. Studying. Applying for remote work at night while the kids sleep. I'm building a digital paper trail, slowly separating myself from his financial grip. I opened a private checking account under my maiden name. I started therapy online discreetly. I'm getting stronger. Smarter. And the best part? They have no idea. Every day they dig themselves deeper. Every text they send is another piece of the noose I'll wrap around their lies. Liam thinks I'm still blind. Natalie thinks I'm still soft. But the version of me they remember no longer exists. One day soon I'll leave. And I won't leave quietly. I'll leave with proof. With purpose. With custody. Revenge doesn't always come with fire and screaming. Sometimes it's silent. Patient. I don't need to destroy them. I'll let their own actions do that. And when the day comes, when the truth spills and their house of cards collapses, I'll be standing at a distance, kids in hand, watching them fall. Still smiling. Because beneath this smile there's a storm. And they have no idea what's coming. They say most betrayals start small. A look held a little too long. A late reply. A phone turned face down on the table. But mine didn't start small. It started with a moan. I was in the kitchen, barefoot, hair still damp from the shower. The kids were upstairs watching cartoons. The house smelled like waffles and syrup, and for a moment, just one, I had that illusion of peace. Then I heard it. A soft, breathy moan. Not from upstairs. Not from the TV. It came from Liam's phone. It was lying on the counter, buzzing with a new message. The screen had lit up with a photo preview, just enough to see bare skin, a mouth open, eyes closed. It was blurry, quick. But it was her. I knew that freckle on her collarbone. Natalie. My heart didn't race. My blood didn't boil. Everything just slowed. I picked up the phone. There was no passcode. Liam never needed one. Why would he? I trusted him more than anyone. I tapped the screen, opened the thread, and scrolled. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. I thought, maybe they were talking in code. Maybe it was a prank. Some sick joke. But the photos didn't lie. The words didn't lie. I dreamt about you last night. Woke up soaked. You're so much better than her. Next weekend. Hotel off I-35. I'll make an excuse. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't crying. Not yet. I was staring at the phone like it belonged to someone else. Like the life I had built was just a set on a soundstage and I'd stumbled onto the script for a different show entirely. Then I saw the date. It had been going on for months. During my pregnancy. During postpartum. During every night I cried myself to sleep thinking I was the problem. Natalie had been in my house. Holding my baby. Laughing at my jokes. She brought over wine and told me Liam was such a good dad. She tucked a blanket around me when I nodded off on the couch. All while texting him under my roof. That was the moment the tears came, silent, hot, and merciless. But even as I broke inside, something else lit up within me. Not fear. Not heartbreak. Rage. Not the kind that makes you scream. No, I didn't break anything. I didn't confront him. I didn't call her. Instead I took a deep breath. I dried my eyes. I saved the messages. Sent them to a secret email account I created on the spot. Then I wiped his screen, placed it back exactly where it had been and went back to making waffles. The kids came down. We ate as a family. Liam kissed my cheek and said he loved me. And I smiled. Because now I knew. And I was done being the fool. This is the story of how I lost everything. And how I started taking it all back. Revenge doesn't start with screaming. It starts in silence. The morning after I found the messages, I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My eyes were puffy but cold. My hair was a mess and my body still carried the soft evidence of 3 pregnancies. But beneath the exhaustion something was alive in me, something I hadn't felt in years. Resolve. I had spent over a decade playing the role of the supportive wife. The loyal best friend. The background character in my own life. I gave Liam everything. My time, my youth, my body, my ambition. I thought I was building a home. But he was building an escape. And now so was I. That same day after I dropped the kids off at school I went to the library. My hands trembled as I typed the first search into the computer. How to leave your husband with no income. Stay-at-home mom legal rights Texas. Custody laws when husband cheats with best friend. The results were terrifying. The odds were stacked against me. Texas law doesn't make it easy for a mother to relocate, especially when she's jobless, dependent, and without close family support. But I'm not the same woman I was yesterday. I printed out every article that mattered. Made a checklist. Started a folder. Then I walked 2 blocks to a tiny coffee shop, ordered the cheapest thing on the menu and sat in the back corner to cry. Not because I was weak, but because I had to get it out before I turned myself to stone. That night, Liam came home with takeout. Natalie texted me around 9 p.m., a meme about motherhood that was supposed to make me laugh. I laughed. And then I saved the screenshot of the meme, because she didn't know that while she texted me, Liam had just told her he couldn't stop thinking about her. Every piece of evidence. Every word. Every lie. I documented it all. I created a private email. A new iCloud account. A flash drive hidden inside an old makeup bag he'd never touch. I even started a private journal, code-named entries, lists, ideas, steps I needed to take. Something happened to me. I wanted the truth to survive. Then I began phase 2. Invisibility. I stopped arguing. Stopped nagging about his late nights. I smiled more. Played dumb. Let him believe I was still naive, still oblivious, still the worn-out wife too tired to think straight. Meanwhile I was applying for freelance jobs. Data entry. Virtual assistant work. Anything I could do after the kids were asleep. I set up a new bank account under my maiden name. Every dollar I made, no matter how small, I moved there. It wasn't much. But it was mine. I wasn't strong yet. I still cried in the shower. Still hated myself for missing him when he held me at night. But I held on to one thing. Patience. Let them think I'm weak. Let them dig their little love hole deeper. Because the deeper they go, the harder it'll be when I turn the lights on. This isn't just survival. This is quiet warfare. And I'm preparing for the day I fire my first shot. Natalie knew everything about me. And that's what made her betrayal so perfect. So personal. So unforgivable. She knew how I liked my coffee. She knew the exact brand of diapers I used, the lullabies I hummed when the kids were sick, and the dreams I had shelved after becoming a mother. She was the one I texted first when I found out I was pregnant with my third. She was in the delivery room holding my hand. She called me her sister by choice. And all that time she was watching my life like it was hers to take. There's something different about being betrayed by a friend. A cheating spouse hurts like hell. But when it's the person who knows all your secrets, the one who chose to stand by you, the one who saw your pain and kept smiling anyway, that cuts deeper. Natalie didn't just stab me in the back. She used everything I ever told her to twist the knife. The next weekend we hosted a small cookout. Just the usual crew, some neighbors, the kids, and of course Natalie. She brought a pasta salad and a bottle of wine like always, walking into my kitchen like it was hers. Liam lit the grill. I wore the same apron she once bought me for my birthday, embroidered with "Best Mom Ever." He hugged me too tight, looked into my eyes and said, "You look amazing lately." Glowing. "What's your secret?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to slap the lie off her lips. Instead I smiled and said, "Sleep deprivation. And revenge." She laughed. He thought I was joking. Later I watched from the window as she leaned into Liam. Not too close. Not too obvious. Just enough for his eyes to linger on her chest before darting away. I gripped the counter so hard my knuckles went white. But then something changed. I stopped seeing her as my best friend who betrayed me. I started seeing her as my blueprint. Natalie was bold, calculating, shameless. The kind of woman who could lie to my face while seducing my husband behind my back. He had always gotten what she wanted. Jobs, men, attention. He played people like games and she always won. And I had studied her for years. So now I would become her. Not to seduce. Not to destroy. But to win. I started mimicking her confidence. The way she spoke. The way she deflected questions with humor. How she never apologized. How she walked into a room like it belonged to her. I began testing my voice again. Slowly, with strangers at stores, customer service calls, online chats. I was learning to be heard. To be seen. She taught me how to be fearless. She just didn't realize she was creating the woman who would eventually ruin her. Because here's the thing about the other woman. She might win the affair. But I'm about to win the war. There's a moment in every war where the tide turns. Where the victim stops flinching and starts aiming. This was mine. The final piece clicked into place on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Liam was out running errands, which I now knew meant screwing my best friend in cheap motels with hourly rates. The kids were napping. And I was staring at a spreadsheet I had built over the last 2 months. Every expense. Every paycheck. Every transfer. His passwords. His credit card bills. His travel receipts. All tracked. All saved. Natalie had called that morning asking if I wanted to plan a weekend trip. Just the two of us. "We deserve a break," she said. "No husbands, no kids. Just wine and spa days." The audacity. I played along, of course. "That sounds perfect," I said sweetly. "We'll talk about it more at the cookout Saturday." What she didn't know was that Saturday would be the last day I ever pretended. I had already spoken to a lawyer, online, anonymous, using a borrowed name. I learned that if I could prove Liam was unfaithful with documentation, and if I showed clear effort toward financial independence, I could strengthen my position for full custody. Texas law doesn't play fair, but it plays facts. And I had more facts than either of them realized. The plan was simple. Brutal. Precise. I would leave. But not before I burned everything they'd built in secret. Step 1: leverage. I printed every screenshot. Hundreds. Put them in a manila envelope labeled, "In case of emergency." One copy went to a locked box in my closet. Another to my friend Lauren in Houston. Someone far enough from our circle to be neutral. Step 2: accounts. I transferred small amounts from our joint account into my new one, just enough to avoid suspicion. I started cashing in birthday checks, gift cards, old savings bonds. Sold and used baby gear online. Collected the cash. Hid it in a tampon box under the sink. Step 3: timing. The cookout would be my decoy. A normal day. Friends, laughter, music. One last performance. And after everyone left, I would confront him, with everything. Then leave. With the kids. With the documents. With everything I needed to bury them both. Step 4: exposure. I drafted an email. Subject line: "You deserve to know the truth." It included screenshots, dates, photos, even a selfie of Natalie in Liam's shirt, the one I'd bought him on our anniversary. The recipients: her boss, her sister, her fiancé, our neighborhood group chat, and just for good measure, Liam's entire family. It was scheduled to send at 11 p.m. sharp. Right after I walked out the door. I had gone, and she was ready. This wasn't just an exit. It was an execution. The sky was too blue for what I was about to do. There was a strange calm that settled over me as I set the patio table. Red gingham tablecloth. Plastic cups. The smell of charcoal rising from the grill. It looked like any other Saturday afternoon. The kids were chasing bubbles. Country music played low through the backyard speakers. Neighbors waved over the fence. And I was about to end 2 lives with the press of a button. Liam walked in from the garage, beer in hand, looking like every bit the doting dad. He kissed my temple and whispered, "You look beautiful today." I almost laughed. Because I wasn't his wife anymore. I was his reckoning. And he didn't even know. Then she arrived. Natalie. Wearing white like some kind of twisted bridal joke. Hugging me too tightly. Holding a tray of deviled eggs like nothing in the world was out of place. "Oh my God, Ratch," she said, her voice syrupy. "You really outdid yourself today. This looks amazing." I smiled and held her gaze. "Thanks," I said. "I wanted today to be memorable." She laughed, not catching the sharp edge behind my words. Not seeing the flicker in my eyes. Not noticing how I glanced at the phone in my back pocket every 10 minutes, watching the clock tick toward midnight. The hours dragged. Small talk. Fake laughter. A blur of grilled chicken and forced smiles. I watched them like a director behind a camera. 2 co-stars in a romance they thought was secret. They didn't touch. Not in front of me. But the looks were there. The tension. The subtle choreography of 2 people who had memorized each other's bodies and now had to pretend they were strangers. Me. I played the perfect hostess. I passed out lemonade. Took pictures. Sang happy birthday to one of the neighbor's kids. I even let Natalie hold my youngest for a photo. Because what's more poetic than letting the snake hold the child one last time? As the sun set, the guests trickled out. Hugs. Kisses. Promises to do it again soon. And finally it was just us. The house was quiet. The kids were asleep. Natalie lingered, helping me with dishes like she always did. "You and Liam are so good together," she said, scrubbing a pan. "I envy that." I turned to her slowly. "Do you?" I asked, watching her flinch just a little. She smiled, unsure. "Of course. I mean, you have this perfect little life." I dried my hands. "Funny thing about perfect lives," I said, walking toward her, each step calculated. "They can turn to ash. Fast." Her smile faltered. And then Liam walked in. He saw my face first. Then Natalie's. Then the envelope in my hand. "What's this?" he asked, trying to keep his voice light. I handed it to him. "Proof." He opened it. His face changed. All the blood drained at once. Natalie stepped back. "Rachel, what are you doing?" I looked at them both, my husband and my best friend. And in that moment, the fear in their eyes was more satisfying than any revenge fantasy I'd ever had. "I'm setting you both free," I said. "Hope it was worth it." Then I pulled out my phone, opened the email app and clicked send. Silence. Liam's phone buzzed first. Then Natalie's. The panic hit like a wave. She grabbed her phone, opened the message and gasped. "Are you insane? You sent this to everyone, my job. Your fiancé," I finished for her. "Don't forget him." Liam tried to speak but no words came. Just guilt. Just regret. Just fear. I walked toward the door, grabbed my bag and looked over my shoulder one last time. "You should clean up before the kids wake up," I said. Then I left. Into the night. Into freedom. Amy. The morning after felt like waking up from a war. The world hadn't ended, not the way I thought it would. The sky was still blue. The sun still rose. But I was different. Like something had been surgically removed from inside me while I slept. My hands shook as I sipped my coffee in the small rented Airbnb an hour outside the city. The kids were still asleep, curled up in a nest of blankets. I had packed fast, quiet, with only the essentials. Clothes, documents, cash, courage. My phone was off. I didn't want to hear from Liam. Or Natalie. Or the fallout I knew was waiting in my inbox. But I turned it on anyway. 47 new messages. 12 voicemails. 3 missed calls from Liam's mother. And then there was the voicemail that mattered most. It was from Natalie. Her voice was shaky, unhinged. "You don't understand what you've done. My job is on the line. My engagement is over. Do you think this makes you the hero? You're sick. You need help, Rachel. You need help." I replayed it twice not because I cared what she had to say, but because it confirmed something vital. I'd won. But the high didn't last long. Because beneath the satisfaction was something else. Something heavier. Something I didn't expect. Grief. Not for Liam. Not for her. But for me, for the version of Rachel Donovan who had believed in friendship, in forever, in love that didn't lie. That version of me was gone. And I missed her. Later that day I sat on the edge of the motel bed while the kids watched cartoons. My youngest climbed into my lap, tiny fingers gripping mine like they always had. And that's when the first tear fell. Not out of weakness. Out of release. For the first time in months I wasn't pretending. I didn't have to smile for the neighbors. Didn't have to swallow back suspicion or silence my instincts. I was free. Terrified. But free. I opened my laptop. My hand hovered over the keys for a long time before I finally typed. Divorce lawyer, Austin, Texas. Female, custody experience. I was done being patient. Done being scared. It wouldn't be easy. I had no job history. No house. No help. I was a single mom with a box of receipts and a wildfire in her chest. But I wasn't powerless. I had the truth. And I had time. The storm was over now. But I was still standing. And in the stillness of that motel room, one thing became very clear. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. There's a moment in healing that no one talks about. It's not loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or grand epiphanies. It comes quietly like breath after drowning. 6 months later I found that breath. The divorce wasn't easy. Liam dragged his feet. Accused me of ruining everything. Tried to paint himself as the victim. But the evidence I'd collected spoke louder than either of us. His lawyers barely blinked when mine laid it all out. He lost the house. He lost joint custody. He lost me. And Natalie? She disappeared. Lost her job. Lost her fiancé. Last I heard she'd moved out of state. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. Good. I didn't need closure. I didn't want redemption. What I want. One night after putting them to bed I stood at the mirror and looked at myself. Really looked. There were still shadows under my eyes. Still scars that would never fully fade. But there was something else too. Fire. I was no longer the woman who broke in the kitchen holding a phone full of betrayal. I was no longer the ghost inside a marriage. I was no longer afraid. I was reborn. The kind of woman who carries her past like armor. Who walks forward with one hand holding her children, and the other holding the pieces of the life she rebuilt herself. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had something better. Freedom. Truth. Power. And beneath it all, a quiet promise whispered every night as I kiss my babies goodnight. They'll never have to unlearn love the way I did. This was never just a story about betrayal. It was a story about becoming. And I finally know who I am.